review, then what?
I have no information at this time from them other than the fact that they are conducting an investigation.
A criminal investigation, not a line-by-line signature investigation.
But all I can report is what I know, and that is a criminal investigation.
Are you basically admitting that because of the time crunch you didn't want to look into this deeper? Would that have opened up a can of worms if there was more time? Is this a valid question to be looking at in terms of going back over all those signatures?
But that would be a decision of this board, and the board made the decision to send out all the nomination papers
to the Attorney General.
To the Attorney General's
for
office.
investigation.
Well, Mr. Dukes, the question is, her name is still on the ballot. There's been some questions about other signatures that were validated. Do you think there's some criticism of the Board of Elections that they basically just punted this because they didn't want to deal with it?
The local board certified that we had the number of signatures necessary for her to be on the ballot.
But we know some signatures that were validated by local boards got through and were approved. So are you concerned that that happened? You say the local board of canvassers did their job, but some signatures squeaked through.
Well, and that's exactly why we need to work on the process and make it even better. And that is what we are committed to doing in the future.
Are you confident that she does have enough to be on the ballot, given that question?
The vote of the board certified that, yes, she had enough signatures to be on the ballot.
What do you say to a Mr. Mundy who had enough signatures but was only essentially given 48 hours to prove to you, in a sense, the proof was foisted onto him that the signatures are actually correct, when in fact some of that signature verification goes back to signatures that are 30 years old? What do you say to him?
I don't really have anything to say at this point. I mean, we acted on that at the meeting.
Right.
But isn't he the true victim in this situation?
No, just had a 2-day time period. That was it. He came in on a Friday with that, and the next day, the Secretary of State had to print the ballots and send them out to the military and overseas. That was required by federal law because it was a federal election for Congress on CD1. So our hands were tied for that. That's why we have this legislation that we want that 7-day period so this thing does not happen again. We need that 7 days to review all that. We didn't have the time frame to do it.
So your statement above your head literally has the word to protect the integrity of the electoral process. Do you feel confident that's happening here, even though there were so many questions swirling around?
Yes, I think the system worked. The Board of Canvassers did their job. They reviewed all the signatures, verified them, and qualified those. So those signatures came through, and we are confident that the Board of Canvassers did their work. So
but I talked to people who said that their signatures were forged and they were still, they made it through the Board of Canvassers.
Yeah, but we don't know those names, do you? If you have those names, give them to us, and we'll just check it against the nomination papers. But there were a number of nomination papers submitted exceeding 700. I think there were 1,500 or 3,000 signatures. How much?
1,250.
Okay, so like 500 were disqualified. Okay, so those people who said that they then signed, or someone signed for them, that could be within that 500. But all we know is the 700 or so signatures that were submitted and qualified, those qualified.
But you're relying on signatures that are in some case decades old. The system is thoroughly broken. Last year, the Libertarian Party
system is not broken.
The system is.
No.
Last year, the Libertarian Party had to come back 3 times to validate the signatures that were in effect judged corrected from the get-go.
No, you're wrong.
I was here.
The signatures are good.
The Secretary of State, Common Cause, believed that the Board of Elections has the authority, without even receiving a complaint, to look over all the signatures. The Secretary of State is proposing a law that would require the Board of Elections to do it when there's suspected fraud. So there seems to be a consensus that the Board of Elections should be looking at this stuff when there's suspected fraud.
If we had the time, need that week, we could do it in 24 hours.
But you're still comparing
Is that a good answer for people right now?
Couldn't possibly do it.
You're asking
just
people
didn't
to
have time
verify
to do it?
decades-old signatures. How can that have any integrity whatsoever? As was pointed out by one of the appellants last week, if someone has cancer, someone has palsy, anyone of a number of health issues, their signature changes dramatically. Isn't that indicative of a broken system if you're relying on that?
No, that's why candidates, when they submit signatures, will submit more than is necessary. Just in that case, if somebody of the Board of Canvassers looked at the signature, and if they have a question, they disqualify that.
So the
Then-
burden of
then-
proof is
then-
always on the
Not
candidate.
And then that's why you have enough signatures, okay?
So notwithstanding the 30-year-old signatures and the way things have shaken out here, you're saying that the way things are established now is good enough?
Well, there's always room for improvement. We're not going to say anything's good enough. That's why we have legislation that we asked that would be introduced to give us that 7-day period. We want more time to review all this.
And that's up to the legislature.
Yeah, we're only a creature of the legislature. We just call balls and strikes. We implement the law based upon what the General Assembly has given to
Based
us.
on the way the law is now, could you have asked the local board of canvassers to review right from day one, when Jamestown flagged them, to start reviewing that? Does this board have the authority to do that?
Well, no. Do we have that authority to? I guess maybe. I don't know. Let's check into that.
Are you concerned at all about the integrity of the signatures and the period of time when they're picked up at town halls and delivered by private citizens in private vehicles to the Board of Elections or to any other spot? When in fact votes are taken very seriously. There's a chain of evidence attached to that.
Well, we rely upon the signature verification. Okay, the system's worked in the past. Okay.
Sorry, can we get your name?
David Scholes, I'm Vice Chair.
David, if you guys had 7 days to review all the signatures before sending it to the Secretary of State's office, this time, would you have done that?
Probably we would have. We had that 7 days. We had to review it all. Yes.
So
We
it
would have
was,
that
it was the
opportunity.
time is the
We
reason
had the
why
time
you
problem.
didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're dead.
That might make people feel uneasy right now about how things stand. If you're saying, if we had the time, we would have done more, but we don't have the time, so we can't do more.
But people should feel confident that the system works. The systems work.
Is Mato's candidacy tainted forever because of this?
That's really not for us to
I'm
comment
not
on.
going to answer that
Thank you.
question.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So, folks, there you go. Plausible deniability, government failure at its best. No matter whatever evidence is to the contrary, the assertion is that the system works. Signing off today, I'd like to say, denial ain't a river in Egypt. Coalition Radio Network, we're going to be headed out now. We're going to be going to, at 5 o'clock, we're going to be at a candidate forum that's going to focus on the recovery community, the opioid crisis, as well as a number of other issues. So come on back. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_Radio. You can take a moment if you like or share this piece and or like or share our social media. As always, thank you very, very much for listening. We'll be back in just an hour or so. Stay tuned. It's going to be a long night. We've got another event after that we'll be covering. So we're going to probably be going till about 10 o'clock tonight. Feel free to look here and see if we're online.